Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to CL Aldridge Art. Or if you are new here, I do hope that you will like and subscribe if you like what you see. Today I am doing a guest artist, Jane F. Hankins, that I am coloring in her book. Hang on a second, let me get to the place. Friends from My Imaginary World by Jane F. Hankins. This book is available on Amazon or directly from the artist's website. I do understand that there may be some shipping delays during the COVID-19 pandemic, but they are shipped directly from the artist, even if you order it on Amazon. So you can do it either way. I have put a link below for you. That is my Amazon affiliate link. So I'm going to be coloring this with Derwent Inktense, and I have, of course, my little friend with her little paws. Coriander is present. So stay tuned and we'll get started. And welcome back. Now, for those of you who may be the first time here, who might not know me, my name is Christine Aldridge, and I am an artist. I do draw coloring books for a living, and I do have a large number of books that are available. These are them. These I've released. There are 11 books. There is one additional book which is not showing. Let me see. No, I have not loaded the... let me grab it real quick. It is my newest book. We'll go back to this one. No, that's not it. Here it is. You may have seen this recently on a couple of channels. Dragons, Flowers, and Mandalas, oh my. All of my books are, of course, available on Amazon. There are links to each one below, and there are also, I've colored a large number of things that are in this book, but I've done them on separate pages. So this is my, boy, I'm not doing a very good job of this, am I? I should say that I am doing this video in real time, rather than as a pre-record, for a couple of reasons. One, because I am going to be coloring Jane F. Hankins. I don't want to feel rushed in any way, and I think that sometimes when I do the voiceovers, I cut my breathing out so much that it sounds like I'm a little rushed. And I don't ever want anybody to feel that way, because I don't want to add to anyone's anxiety, especially not right now. And I have, the reason why I say that is because I did in fact have my, I haven't had one in a really long time, but I did have an anxiety attack today. And it's unusual. It's unusual for me. That is something that I usually manage to control quite well. But, you know, sometimes the best way through is to admit that, you know, that things are not the same. Things are not like they were, and you know, we're dealing, of course, with an awful lot of uncertainty these days. We've all here in the United States just received, you know, sort of the official word that this is going to go on for some time yet. And it does, it does make for anxious times. At any rate, this is the green Aquamarine. Now, we did start this on Sunday, and if you're unfamiliar with Derwent Inktense, they are ink-soluble or water-soluble ink pencils. So when you put them down, they actually lay down ink pigment, and then when you activate it with your water brush, it does become permanent. It does not bleed through. On thick paper like this, it doesn't even shadow. Jane's books are all, this particular one is, I believe, 9 by 12. It could be, let's see here. Yeah, this one is 9 by 12, and it is on 80-pound professional grade paper, suitable for framing. So the Queen prepares for the ball. So I will get started and I'll color, and we'll just chat. I need to ask my sweet girl there to move her little paws over just a tad. I wanted to darken up some of this color right here. When I put the initial layer down, I had been very light with it, and I realize now that it's dry, completely dry, that I want to add just a little bit of additional color. So I realize that it's very difficult for you guys to see it when I get really subtle like that until it gets wet. But it looks so beautiful. Yes, dear. I see you there. And in this particular case, any little pencil line darkness that may be left works because this is fabric. So let me zoom you down just a tad here. And we'll fix that focus issue. There it is. And this is, of course, Coriander's little paw. We'll see if we can't get her to move it. There we go. All right, so the colors that I have used in this dress are the green aquamarine, the dark aquamarine, not the leaf green, sorry, the iris blue. I'm missing one of my blues. And no, not that. Yes, the mallard green. Okay, so the mallard green, the green aquamarine. No, sweetheart. No. Thank you, but no. Behave. Thank you. Or behave, or you'll have to get down. Yeah, that's a good girl. And the iris blue with the dark aquamarine. So these two make up our colors. So I've got I'm mixing them up a little bit, because what I want to do is have this appear like it is color changing fabric, like in some lights it's blue and in some lights it's green. So I'm due for a blue side, so I can show you. I start out at the top of a given area that I want to be blue, and I'm fairly dark with laying down the pigment. Especially along things that might be folds or something along those lines. Then I can come in with the lighter iris blue and just being very, very light with it. And in this particular case, I am not going for the stroking so much as I am just letting the pencil weight add a little bit of color, because I want this to be very light, like it's diaphanous fabric. So if I do this, okay, then I can add just a tiny bit of green. Now the mallard green, I believe, is the darker of the two. I did have the teal green out. That's what I'm missing. Apparently I did put it back somewhere. Or it is right there. Okay, that's what the problem is. I am missing dark aquamarine, Irish blue. Yeah, okay, got it. See, this is what happens when I get confused. I forget what colors that when I stop and start a project again. Okay, so this is the teal green. It is the lighter of the greens. And I'm just adding a tiny, tiny bit. Just sort of here and there, intermixing it with the blue. And now, even though it doesn't look like there's very much pigment on the page, when you apply the water, you can see just how much pigment is actually there. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, or I don't want to say wrong, but when they're using their Inktense for the first time, they're not really realizing quite how much pigment they're laying down on the paper when they're coloring. You don't color with them like regular pencils. I mean, you can, certainly. But when you wet it, you're going to have so much pigment on your page that your colors are going to be just very blocky and spiky. And now this I did not do a particularly good job on because it is a fairly wide area. So I'm going to end up probably going back over this particular area because I can see quite a few quite a few marks that will show up once it's dry, and I'll want to get those out of there. So anyway, how are all of you doing? It seems like now that I'm doing a lot more pre-records, or have done more than a few pre-records, whereas I used to do nothing but lives, I feel almost like I'm losing track of all of you, and I don't want that to happen. I want y'all to know that I care about what's going on in your lives, and okay, so that's the teal green. I've got one too many colors here is what the problem is. No, I don't. There's 4, right? Okay, got it. Teal green, aquamarine green. Green, aquamarine, yes. Iris blue, dark, okay. Hello. So now I'm back to the green. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I was sort of shocked by, the fact that I, who am sort of known for keeping my cool and keeping my calm and all of that kind of stuff, just sort of lost it today. I don't know if that happens to any of you guys. For me, it's unusual. I usually am very, very good about, acceptance, and this is just the way it is. Excuse me, and all of that kind of good stuff. See, now y'all know why I've taken to doing the voiceovers, though, because then I can cut out all the ums and all the coughs and all of that. Uh-oh. That's the other thing that I have to say is just I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to turn that phone off. Just because every time it goes off, I feel like I have to look at it, and the tiny screen on that I've got it ruins my vision for the day. If I get sucked into an Instagram conversation, or if I spend a bunch of time looking at Messenger because you can't access Instagram conversations on the big screen computer. You can't post anything, you can't post pictures, you can comment on pictures that are already posted, but you can't post new merchandise or new content from a laptop, and you can't answer your messages, sweetheart, or all of that. So I have to look at the small screen, and it just wreaks havoc with my vision, with my ability to focus. I can see the screen fine, but then when I need to switch back to what I'm reading or what I'm working on as far as coloring goes, something like that, my eyes won't focus again. And that is purely a function of the fact that I'm, getting older, and our eyes just sort of, we have to treat them a little more carefully. And it's tough to get, I have the low blue light on my regular computer screen, but my phone doesn't have a low blue light setting, so it feels like it's burning my eyes. Okay, there we go. Because I have an old phone, so it's got the the little 2-inch. It's this tiny screen, this one, as opposed to the the big phones that are like 6 inches and 3 inches wide. This one's only, what, 2.5? So, I love it. I mean, I love my phone. Okay, so now I was going to do the dress. I've pretty much done the blue, what, the aqua, or the dark aquamarine. So I'm doing the dark aquamarine up here, and then it gets a lot of it down here. And then so I'm making these like little fold type things. All right, and then I can come down on this, this is the iris blue. Just going to come down a little bit and up a little bit. But that's enough about me. I was watching Mama Fruit Bat, Anne, at A Colorful Life the other day, and she was talking about some anxiety that she had felt about the possibility of, of there being shortages because of certain medicines, because they're now giving them to, to people who have the virus, and they happen to be medicines that are like the only thing that that treat other conditions that people have. And she does have someone in her life that needs that medication, and so the idea that it will all end up getting used up by people who, because they're just, apparently right now they're just experimenting with it to see if it will work, but they're creating shortages of it because the drug manufacturer, doesn't make huge quantities of it. And so it's becoming increasingly difficult for the people who need it to live to get a hold of it. And isn't it amazing how quickly something like that can change? Then, of course, I was listening to this is really what calmed me down, or actually, this is really what sort of set me off, because it isn't myself that I'm worried for. I'm not worried for myself. I am worried for other people. And the thing that sort of caused me to sort of lose it is as I was listening to a radio interview, and they were talking about the the drivers, the delivery drivers for like Amazon and Instacart and Grubhub and all of those places that are striking because they need some sort of protection. And we may think that they're being I don't know. My first instinct was, well, wouldn't that be nice? But the medical professionals need it more. And then, of course, it occurred to me, as this lady was saying, like Instacart. I didn't know how Instacart worked. When you order your groceries through Instacart, a person actually has to physically go into a grocery store and shop for you. And we all know that the grocery stores are the one place where, we can all sort of still go if we need to. But that, for instance, me, who I'm over 60, and, and that puts me at some, and have an underlying lung issue. So that does, in fact, put me in a higher risk category. And so the idea, because I won't, when it's raining, I won't ask somebody else to go out and deliver my food because I don't want them to risk their lives. So, so I feel bad for the people that are having to, because they have to put food on their table. They have gig, they actually are part of the gig economy is what it's called now. I learned that today. The people who actually perform a service for for their daily bread kind of thing. So, I was all set to order I was going to order some groceries, and now I don't feel like I can do that. I'm pretty sure I can't do that, because I can't ask somebody else to go into a grocery store and risk themselves. And on the other hand, I know they need the money, but then of course you have to tip them, and they make you spend $30 in order to get a delivery service to begin with. And so it's just, every once in a while you just can't, you gotta just not think about it. Just don't think about it, because if you do, you'll drive yourself out of your comfort zone. Way out of your comfort zone. So I will just be very, very glad when it's all over. And I will go grocery shop tomorrow morning early, like the moment that the store opens, when I know it's been cleaned and there aren't a lot of people. I think they're opening at 6 a.m. for seniors. I don't usually take advantage of being a senior, but I think I might take advantage today. So I've told you what colors I'm using, right? So this is the way my mind works, though, and it works. You know, I end up in a vicious cycle of guilt. You know, there's guilt, need. You know, how badly do I need it? Do I need it badly enough? Am I going to put somebody else at risk? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. Okay, so the decision is made. I'll go for it myself. Then, you know, what is the optimum time? What is the you know, the and on and on and on and on. Let's see what I want to do with this. I want this to be a dark. For some reason, I want this to be dark. So I'll make this dark. Make that kind of darker because it... Okay, so now... And I think I might actually take the dark... Okay, that was what the... That was the teal. So what if I take the dark aqua, or the... That was the teal green. There's the dark aquamarine, that's not the one. Green aquamarine, that's the one. Hello. And then, so I'm going to go around the outside just a little bit. And like under the fairy's hand, it would be darker. So that way I can, when I wet that, then I can pull that additional pigment up like that. So am I alone in that? Anybody? And please feel free to leave your comments or say, oh my gosh, Christine, I can't believe you're talking about this. And, you know, and then of course we have to add to all of the stuff that's going on in my head about all of this stuff, to my sort of general angst over the way that the entire thing has been handled from a, you know, from a preparatory, not that, you know, it's because then you want to be fair. See, fairness, I swear, fairness is going to kill me as far as my anxiety goes, because I want to be fair. This circumstance is it's unprecedented in our time. It is not unprecedented in history. You know, of course, we had the flu pandemic in, you know, the Spanish flu, and it was, but we, you know, at the time there wasn't the sophisticated medical knowledge that we have now, nor was there the ability to help people that there is now. You know, it used to be that you got sick and, you know, and you died. Now you get sick and you go to the hospital and you go on the ventilator and you maybe, you know, hopefully survive, maybe if you can, blah, da, da, da. I mean, it used to be that if you got that sick, you were a goner. But now you might live. And so anyway, I'm probably not going to be able to, I'm going to probably strip all the sound out of this and do a do a voiceover on it, because I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to get so bummed out that I won't be able to allow it to be used. Because who wants to listen to me rant about how unfair this all is to all of us, and how I wish that we had been better prepared, and, you know, there'll be plenty of time for recriminations of the system after we've dealt with all of this. You know, at this point in time, all that there is to do is point fingers at people, and that is not the way through. Pointing fingers at people and creating fault where no fault is evident is something we cannot do. No matter what examples we are given. Right? We're better than that, all of us. Okay, so I'm just going to go around this dark part. Back to the light blue. Okay, so now we'll add that. And I'll twist and tweak this as it goes. So whatever, sweetheart, I love you. Yes, I do, but you're in my light. Yeah, you can be over there. If I backed this camera off, she's right here. You can just see her little ears. Just see her little ears. Yeah, she was like, Mom, don't be upset, Mom. It'll all be okay, I promise. I know, honey. I know. It'll all be okay. Once again, and I mentioned this on my Sunday live stream. There is a huge difference between the lifestyle of being a hermit and having it enforced by your government. It's like, wow, really? Okay. What do you mean I can't go out? Before it was my choice. Now, of course, it is to keep everyone else safe. Because, here's the horror. Here's where I could deal with the guilt, is if I were to, okay, so let's say I took the attitude that some people have, which is, oh, well, this virus isn't going to get me. I'll just go about my daily business. And then I brought it home to someone that I love, or, since I live alone, but let's say that let's say that I went to the grocery store, and then I went to the drugstore, and I somehow touched something at the grocery store, and then I touched something at the drugstore that someone else touched that was well, but they got sick because I had picked it up at the grocery store. And so you see where it's like, yeah, I think that people need to really understand that social distancing is important. It is important. I've been talking with a friend she lives overseas, and she said that that people are in her country are going to their churches, and they're doing all of this other kind of stuff, exposing themselves to each other, and not heeding at all the idea that you know, that they may be carrying this thing off to someone else. And I don't know. I certainly don't want to offend everybody, but do I really think that that whatever powers there are, whether you call them God or something else, uh, I suppose that someone that was omnipotent and all powerful could make it all go away, but would that be at the top of their to-do list kind of thing? So, assuming that it would not be, you know, it's like, you know, it's like, I think we've all heard at some point in time some version of this, but it's like the guy who, you know, suffers the flood, and he is climbed up to his roof, and, you know, he's praying to God and to please send him help, and, you know, send him rescue, and or that, you know, that you know, that God will take care of him. And so the rowboat comes along, and he says, no, God will take care of me. And then the helicopter comes along, and he says, no, God will take care of me. And then he drowns, and, you know, he gets to heaven, and he says, God, I believed in you, and here you let me drown. And God says to him, I sent you a rowboat and a helicopter. You know, what is it you want from me? So, I would prefer that people do not have to die for their beliefs. I don't say whether or not they're right or wrong. I just hope that they don't have to die. Okay, so now this, and I hope that does not offend anybody, because I don't think that, you know, COVID-19 came from heaven or from any kind of an omnipotent power. I think it just is part of biology, and it happened, and we have to deal with it like every other virus, every other flu season, all that kind of good stuff. I've got this cat draped over my arm, and she's purring away. She's just happy and relaxed, and I take my cues from her. She's a good influence on me. I am loving Jane's book, though. I love coloring these. You know, all the individual little sections of the dress, and let's see here. Let's see, let's go with the darker blue. This is all sort of along the bottom there. So then I can wet that a little bit. So without actually taking the color up, it ends up getting up there anyway because it's flowing through the brush. Now what I ought to do is make that underslip some other color. That would be cool. You can only see 3 little tiny areas of it. Well, actually, and you can see a little bit of it over here. as well. So I may do that. I may actually, I don't think I can get it out of there at this point in time, but I think it would be cool if that were pink. If I made the underslip pink, even though the dress is blue. All right, let's see where we are. Back out just a little bit. Hi, sweetheart. All right, go to autofocus. There we go. Oh, well, hello, everyone, and welcome back. It has now been 2 full days since I turned the camera off, and I'm just now getting back to this. A lot of different things have happened. One of which is that I had to go out. I went out on, it was very, very early Tuesday morning. I was actually filming in the wee hours of the morning between Monday and Tuesday earlier. And so I had to go out. And there was a great deal of anxiety wrapped up in that. And part of what was, I guess I should continue to color. When we had left off, we had left off down here. And so I was just going to continue on. I really wanted to take a step back and evaluate what the heck is going on with the colors here and how I wanted to proceed. So now I know. And I've pulled out a new color that I'm going to add, but not to the dress. Actually, it'll be for something else. But at any rate, so I knew I had to go out. And there was a great deal of anxiety that I had built up around that. And especially in light of the fact that late on, or I shouldn't say late, but around midday on Monday, our governor here in Virginia, where I live, went on to make the suggestion of sheltering in place or, staying home. Instead of it being a suggestion, he made it an order because things here in Virginia have escalated as far as infection rate and the rate of sick people and those folks who are losing the battle. And I knew I had no groceries. I knew I needed to go out, and because I was out of too many things. Even though I had been to the grocery store the week before, they had been out of so many of the things that you need, like rice and flour and, stuff like that. And while I certainly was able to find enough food to feed myself for the week, I, was ending up eating things that are not very healthy for you. And so I was kind of hoping that they would have meat, for instance, back in the store and stuff like that. But I had also managed to convince myself somehow that the supply trucks were bringing in so little that there wasn't going to be enough food left in the store for all of the people to buy. And I have, I don't, I can honestly say that other than one particular period in time, when I was 19 or 20, that I've never really suffered from what I would consider food insecurity, but I have sort of a deep-rooted fear of running out of food. Even though I don't, you know, I don't keep a particularly well-stocked pantry these days or anything like that. But I always know that, you know, if I really, really have to, I can always, you know, go to the grocery store and buy a 5-pound sack of flour instead of a loaf of bread, you know, that kind of thing. But when you walk in the grocery store and they not only don't have any bread, but they don't have any flour like they did last week, that is where I sort of ended up, you know, losing it with, you know, with really what happened to me earlier in that particular day. So, but I did go to the grocery store. It was very early. They had just opened. I took advantage of the fact that they are serving senior citizens, of which I qualify. That, you know, that sort of golden hour before they let the general public in the store. They didn't have a lot, but they had, you know, they actually I should say they didn't put out a lot, but they had everything I needed. They were still out of toilet paper and paper towels, but I have toilet paper, so I wasn't worried about that. I have no paper towels, but they did have those big napkins, you know, the paper napkins, dinner size napkins that are nice and thick. So I picked up a package of those because in a pinch, those will definitely do. And they also had they had meat. I was able to buy a 10-pound bag of chicken thighs, which was great. They had 3. I mean, it wasn't like they had, you know, chickens and chicken part piece. You know, you couldn't buy a package of thighs. What they were putting out was a 10-pound bag of frozen chicken thighs, and you could buy that 10-pound bag, or you could not buy chicken. You know, that was the only choice. So I got a 10-pound bag. But it happens that I love chicken, so that was a no-brainer for me. So I bought that because I make a lot of chicken stew. I was able to get a 3-pound bag of rice, so brown rice. So that made me feel better. I was able to pick up a bag of lentils because lentils are really good. You know, they're really good depression, or I want to say they're depression era, but they're not really depression era food. What they are is they're really good for making lentil soup and lentil stew. And lentil stew and lentil soup are one of those things that, you know, if you make a pot, it will last you forever. And, you know, you can freeze it. It freezes beautifully. Where am I? I want the teal green. Find me the teal green, please. There it is. And so anyway, so the more I was able to find what I needed, they had a gallon of milk, you know, a gallon of whole milk. And I even bought ice cream, which I never buy. I never ever buy ice cream, but I mean, there's a huge supply of it because, of course, people were buying, sweetheart, no, people were buying all the necessities last week, but they weren't buying any of the luxuries. So, you know, I bought ice cream because I could, and because, you know, you never know, and you just never know, and so maybe it's not such a bad thing to, you know, enjoy a bowl. And I'm blaming Anne, because Anne had a colorful life, because she was talking about how her mom likes a little bowl of vanilla ice cream every night before she goes to bed, and that made me crave ice cream. So I like Heavenly Hash, and so I picked up a gallon of this, or a half gallon of the store brand Heavenly Hash, and I had it for breakfast, and it was really good. and because I could. I'm making the back of the dress a little darker than the front because I'm thinking that this is going to be like a light. Her little magic wand is going to have a glow around it. So that's why I wanted the front of the dress to be lighter, and I'm making the back of the dress darker. So just in case you wonder what's going on with that. So then, on my way home, and if you are a watcher of my channel for any length of time in the last few months, you know that last summer, my across the street neighbor, his wife, had underwent cancer treatment. And now that I've got the right colors in my hand, underwent cancer treatment, and we didn't know if she was going to survive or not. And then, everybody, and of course, they're hermit. They're not really friendly people. Everybody knows who they are, and of course, we worry about them in a neighborly way, but they never have gone out of their way to get to know anybody in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. And I've lived across the street from them for very nearly 20 years now. And I didn't even know her name. I knew his name was Larry. So anyway, the neighborhood was delighted when he was able to bring her home after a surgery for lung cancer. He brought her home from the hospital. She was on oxygen with home nursing care and all of that. And then, just a few months ago, I think in what was it, January? I think it was early January. Could have been around mid-January. He died. He suddenly dropped dead. And she's blind and, all of this other kind of stuff. Well, I met Linda today as she was able to walk out of her house under her own power, off the oxygen, to walk her dog, and wearing really those dark glasses that they give you when you have cataracts, because she's not blind. She had actual cataracts. She had the surgery that restored one eye, and they've had to postpone the surgery for the other eye until after the COVID-19 crisis is over, but she fully expects to have her vision back. And her tumor, she said that the last time that they checked, which was just a week ago, her tumor continues to shrink because she had lung cancer. And part of it, of course, was inoperable, but the chemo has helped her to have it shrink. And so I had jokingly said, wouldn't it be funny if now that her husband has passed away, she gets completely well and enjoys, another 20 years of healthy and robust life? Because, and I'm sure that the men in my audience will forgive me, but women already outlive men, and we also have a greater percentage of us that choose life over dying of grief. So, as the loss of her husband, of 46 years, by the way, that they were married. So anyway, her name is Linda, and her little dog's name is Zoe, and so we met for the first time. It seems hard to believe that I guess it was Tuesday morning. Right now, it is very early Wednesday morning, as I am working on this and chatting to you. I also ran into, I'm sure, some of the people who listen to my channel. I ran into you yesterday at Sammy's, Color and Chat with Sammy. And I love the fact that artists are drawing for this for the pandemic and offering some drawings, I was feeling really kind of guilty that I hadn't been able to get my act together enough to do that. So I'm hoping that you guys will forgive me for that. Apparently this is going to go on a while, so you just never know. I might come up with something. What I loved is that the picture that Sammy is coloring features a young woman wearing a mask. A mask to like a medical mask, and it's a tribute to our medical care people, and I think that is just absolutely wonderful. Back to a blue layer. So I'm alternating blues and greens so that this all is sort of a diaphanous looking gown. I love that word, diaphanous. I don't think I can spell it anymore. At least not without a dictionary. But it's a great word. All right, make that dark, and then we'll go with the lighter here. We'll tweak this a little bit later. So yeah, I just have to say, it was just so delightful to see her up and under her own power. I had been very concerned that, she was over there all alone after her husband passed away. And I would see various people come and go, but I didn't know who they were. And as it turns out, who they were are her son and her sister-in-law, so who just lives down the street. So, and her brother. So obviously she's not all alone. And but they were people that never came around as long as Larry was around, and I don't know what that meant, but it always struck me. When I first moved into the neighborhood, you know how one neighbor will tell you about all of the other people. Well, they said that her husband encouraged her to not make any friends in the neighborhood. So when I hear something like that, my mind always immediately goes to, to the spouse is a little controlling over, choosing your friends and things like that. So that's why I probably in poor taste said, now she's going to get to enjoy some freedom from that kind of oppression. And I hope that she enjoys it. Okay, now this I'm going to make the lighter blue, because I realize that I've forgotten this, because I've got the darker green in there. So I'll make that the iris blue, and then I'll go back to the teal green, just keeping this also fairly light, working around these fairy wings. Anyway, so how are all of you doing? Are you, are you staying busy? Are you diamond painting? Are you, what's going on with you? Are you having, like me, are you occasionally letting the overwhelm get the better of you, or have you got better control over it? I usually have such good control over, that kind of thing. So it was really odd for me to, have a just sort of, well, and it really was, it was about shopping. It was about, holding, not wanting to go do it, but not able to bring myself to call somebody else to do it, because why would I ask someone else to put themselves at risk, to help me out? I wouldn't do it. So, okay, so there's a little piece of the dress here. And so anyways, and then I need a little bit of the darker green. That's the aquamarine. That's the green aquamarine right there. That's this one for down here. Okay. And I also need it here. Just sort of catch that under there. And I'm not at this point in time, I'm just adding the colors in sort of a arbitrary fashion, not really not really with a plan. That's what I'm saying. I will tell you that the minute that I hit that front door, I was all about going to wash my hands. And I took a I have just been yakking away and working on showing you what I was doing and how I finished that, and I did all this, and I just looked over and realized that I had not hit record. So I do apologize. This is where we are right now. I have finished the dress. I have, and you've missed all of my witty charm there for just a second. I actually I actually was doing pretty good. And I finished preparing this little dress, adding some additional mid vermilion color. I added blue to the big flower up here. I used peacock blue and added a little bit of blue to that. I am so sorry. And then I was showing you this. I was so proud of it. Looked over and discovered that the camera ticker wasn't rolling down or getting bigger. I hadn't pushed record. It's just silly me. Anyway, so this is of course the one that I did, and this was the repair I was doing because it had all bled through to this page. So I felt compelled to color this page to cover it all up. So this is the finished product. This is, of course, a big smoky mountain with lots of woodland and trees on it, and bare rock areas up here that are all gray, and the sun beating down and lighting the hillside meadow up here with the light green. And these are logs that are being logged from the mountain, and of course there's mushrooms growing out of the logs and pine cones, and then of course our very beautiful and colorful beetle who has just been blinged out. And I'm really pleased with the way that this turned out and the colors and all of that. I actually really I really like this page a lot, so I hope you do too. And once again, that is in De Welt unter de Loop Zuland. I've been trying to work on my accent a little bit. My German accent, I remember it. I took German in high school, So I remember that W is pronounced V. De world. De world. The world under the microscope on land. Anyway, okay, so now let's work on a wing. Shall we do the wings? I think we should do the wings. And this time I will, in fact, remember to hit record. Okay, now, let's see. I am going to start with... What am I going to start with? I am going to start with... Yeah, I think I am going to start with the mauve. So now the wings are going to be blue, green, pink. They're going to be all sorts of different colors. So I'm going to zoom you down. I honestly do not quite know yet what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it. So let's play. Let's experiment. So this is the mauve, which is the... If we look at the swatch book, it's this color here. So it is, dependent upon how heavily you put it on the page, you can take it from this dark side all the way to the light side. So what I want to do is I want to start out by putting a fairly dark bit here at the edge where Jane has put all of this lovely shading. So a lot of times if you are uncertain as to where your darks should go, look at what the artist has provided you, because these lines are not just for decoration. They are, the artist's way of showing texture in a pen and ink drawing. I do the same thing when I draw. I want, if there's a darker space, I'm going to shade it in a little bit for you, so you know that's where the darks go, or that's where I've envisioned they go. You can put them anywhere you want, but if you're going to try and go with the artist's vision for it, that is, it's hard to go wrong by paying attention to the dark lines. Sweetheart, you are in my light. You are in my light, babe. Yeah, no, it's not playtime. Hang on, let me deal with this. Be right back. Sorry about that. I tossed her off. Let's see how long it lasts. I didn't toss her off, but you know what I mean. I put her off the desk. Hopefully she will take the hint. Otherwise, I'll have to put her off again. I don't mind her being up here, but she needs to settle in one spot. She says, fine, I'll just sit over here and lick myself and give myself a bath. So she's sitting on the edge of the desk where she knows my pens or my brushes are in a jar, so she likes to rattle against them. So I'm just adding a little bit of that, and now I'm going to add a little bit of blue, going to the iris blue in here. notice how I'm going, I'm stroking just a single direction inwards. Following those lines. This is the iris blue. I want these wings to be light, but I don't, I also need them to have a little bit of contrast. So, right now I'm going to come up with a, let's see, do I want the fuchsia or I want the rose? I think I want the, I definitely don't want that. I don't want the mid vermilion. Here's the let me see, there's the Carmine Pink. I think for this, I want the cherry. Yeah, I think I want the cherry and not the Carmine Pink. That's the Scarlet Pink. Nope, that's a little too much to the orange side. So let's go with the cherry. That's crimson. How come it never looks like... See, the problem is it never looks like what I think it should look like. Like that is substantially darker than I want it to come out. So I'm just going to here add a little bit of pinks here and there coming off those purples. So I'm just adding a little bit of it, not, just sort of here and there. Oops. All right, now I'm going to go back to the iris blue and come up from the bottom here. A little darker because this one is behind. Right, and then sort of lighter as I get toward the end of the line. So her hair is casting a sort of a dark shadow as it's coming out from under. Because remember, if I'm putting my light source over here as this light around her magic wand, then back here would be the darkest areas. Because the light would be on her face. Okay. And now I want to add a little bit more of the purple or the mauve down in here, coming out. I'm not really going with a lot of rhyme or reason or anything like that. I'm just sort of adding color a little bit at a time until I get a feeling that it's the way that I want it. And remembering that this is very light because it hasn't been activated yet, but that it will be much, much darker once it is activated. So you always have to keep in mind that it is, you're dealing with the unknown until you put your color down. The only experience that, the only way to know if you're adding too much or too little is you know, through experience. So, and experimentation. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. I have a, you know, I have an educated guess. Like for instance, I waited on that one too long. There we go. So I'll add a little bit of that before I blended it down. So I'm going to be quicker with this one. I'm going to blend it down a little faster so that I don't end up with that harsh line. Same thing with that. See how that left sort of a lighter area in between? So I'm going to come along the edge and then work it down really quickly. Get to the other color. There's still a little pink in there. Speaking of which, I could add probably a little pink in here. Maybe a touch in there. Okay, so now, I said I have no idea if this is going to work or not. This paper, I've noticed, while it takes the water just fine, it doesn't have a tendency to spread it out. It's very tightly woven, so I don't get I don't get the bleed effect that I want. What color is this? This is the Carmine Pink. So sometimes you have to add a little additional color to compensate where it didn't bleed. Okay. You can always go back and add more color later. Better to err on the side of caution, because it's easier to add pigment later than it is to try and, well, you can't take pigment away with Inktense. All you can do is add more. But you can, there are ways to adjust. I had a picture that I did in one of the romantic countries, and I kept messing up this set of flowers on a tablecloth, and I managed to take them out with a wash of white acrylic, and then I was able to go back over them again with the correct color of Inktense. So it can be done. It was not easy, I can tell you that. But you can fix a lot of stuff with acrylic paint. Okay. So I'm trying to keep it darker, consciously darker, closer to the edge. And remember that these leaves are not, or these, they're not dry yet, so they'll be much lighter when they are dry. I am sort of stroking, I'm doing a little bit of scrubbing motion, but mostly it's stroking one direction toward the inside, or in the case of where the color is down there, toward the outside. And it can be really dark back here because this is behind her and under her hair. So I'll know more once these dry. Like, for instance, I don't particularly care for the pink there in the middle of that, but, you know, but it's done now. So let's see what it would look like without the pink. Because this wing, I didn't put the pink in there. Yeah, see, I like that a little better. So those are the things that we learn. Doesn't mean that the picture is, is ruined. It just means that if I could have done it differently, I would have. And I've learned for the next time I paint wings to not use the blue and the pink together like that in that particular kind of an area. It's not bad, it's just not what I had envisioned. Sweetheart, I'm off camera because I'm trying to compensate for you coming and plopping yourself down. I apologize, everybody. Okay. All right, so we will know when when that completely dries how we did. Gonna back out here. Whoops. There we go. So that you can see it a little better. And that's where we are right now. I'm going to pause again, and I'll figure out what we're going to do next. Go light somewhere, sweetheart. Go light somewhere. Okay. We are back. And, all right. So now this is not completely dry, but pretty dry. And I did want to add a couple of extra little things in here. Like, for instance, the longer I look at this, the more I realize that this underslip should be dark. And so I've got a deep blue, and I'm going to do, no, you cannot have that water brush. You destroyed my last one. You cannot have this one. So I'm just adding some dark blue down in here in the deep shadows of this dress. Just to indicate that, obviously the rest of it is hanging over it. So these would be especially dark. But I want to keep them in the blue family. I do want to bring it just up a little bit there, but I wanted it to be lighter as it comes down. There we go. These are all the areas of the slip that are showing. Excuse me. And hopefully you can see that. Trying to decide if I've decided what I want to do for a background, and it's something that I saw Lindsay at the Frugal Crafter do on a loose painting of some roses that she did. I'm going to do a watercolor background, and then I'm going to splotch it up with water, which you can do a background like that even though you've used Inktense, because the Inktense are permanent and will not react when you splatter it with water. But the watercolor will. So I'll use watercolor for the background, and then the primary stuff will all be Inktense, so it'll be permanent. But I did also notice that on the, since I made primarily all of the spotted fabric, the green, I realized that these two sleeves were also the spotted fabric. So I want to change this one just a little bit since it is showing to the teal green. So even though I've done it in blue, I'm going to add just a bit of the teal green over it in those lightest spots to just sort of change it up. And so I'll add a little bit. It's fine that, once again, this is a color changing dress. It's changing from blue to green, dependent upon the light. But this just sort of helps to add to that illusion. Since I did these sleeves in the blue, if I add that green in on top of the blue, see how it sort of balances it out? Because this and that are the same color, but it's just different weights of the amount of ink. So, and then I do want to, I need to darken up a little fold that we have going on there, but it needs to be in the blue. So I'll darken it up in the iris blue, coming right out of there. I didn't want to use the darker aquamarine blue. I could have, but I wanted it to be more subtle than that, so I went with the iris. Okay. So as it's coming out from between those two folds. And this needs to be darkened up just a tad. Just a little further down, because that transition, I didn't like that transition, where it suddenly got so, And these are things that you'll notice as it dries, and you can, like I said, you can always add more pigment, but you can't take it away once it's down there. So I want to just add just a tiny bit more. Sweetheart, I love you, but yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, there are certain things that you're not able to help with, my dear. I think Coriander approves. Okay, sweetie. All right, Let me see if I can. Oh, goofy girl. Okay. All right, so now I want to do these, and I want them to be a little bit darker than they were. And I'm looking for the mid vermilion. I want to keep it in the same family of the yellow and the vermilion. But where this one is primarily yellow, these will be primarily the vermilion. So I want them to be darker overall. And vermilion is sort of it doesn't know if it wants to be orange or if it wants to be pink. It is one of those shades that is sort of a strange crossover between those two colors. And it's because it's got, I'm not sure why vermilion has, I'm sure that if there's an artist watching, I could look it up as far as the color coding goes to find out how you make vermilion. You know, what colors you put together to make vermilion. So now I'm adding just a little bit of the yellow in. Down. There we go. See how we do with that. I'm going to stroke in on the yellow for right now. Just activating it. And not activating the vermilion yet. And then I'll activate the vermilion and bring it all the way down to the bottom. And it'll be a natural fade. Whoops. Toward the lighter, but it'll stay a little more orange as we bring it down over that already wet yellow. So see how it automatically makes it a slightly darker version of the one above it. It is so delightful when I go into streams and people who have been to one of my streams say that, Christine, you know, you made me brave enough to use my Inktense. I've had them for months and I've never used them. And that is the whole reason why I do this. I just love that. You know, I love the idea that I can help people sort of overcome their timidity when it comes to their Inktense, because to me, I just think they are magic. And now this one I'm being a little tighter up toward the top with the vermilion, and I'll be a little more light with or you know, create a little lighter of a petal with so this one will be closer to, but sort of in between the dark of this one and the light of this one will be this one. So notice that I'm not going all the way over, and that's so that that one will leave like a little bit of light space. And I'll do the same thing here. I won't go all the way over the whole petal, just come up both sides. And that'll end up leaving a little bit of a light space there. But this one, of course, I can come up because it is all the way over. So same technique, up the colors, and then do the center. Doing the light one first, and then over here to this one, and you know, you can even wipe off if you want to, and then bring them together. So as you use your Inktense, you'll get a feeling for how you want them to work for you. So then that is, so I'm not going to come all the way. Well, I am, but I'm going to, since I use this a little bit lighter to begin with, just going to work it slowly out there so that more of it stays up near the top. And I'm not really, it's just a hint of it left when I get down here to the bottom. Sort of patting. All right, so now I see that one is right in between. The colors of this are right in between these two. So there's all three, but they are slightly varied. Okay. Okay, so now the crown. We'll do the crown. And I'm going to do the crown in gold. I've been sitting here debating, do I do it in the same colors as the dress, or should I do it in gold? And I'm going to do it in gold. So I'm going to, mostly because then I can blend in, I can blend it into the hair. So I'm using that same golden yellow and just a little bit lighter up here at the top. And I also want to do the little dots in this as well. But I'm going to switch to a smaller brush because it's got less fibers, and so there's a better chance that I'll actually be able to do those little dots sort of cleanly. We'll see. This particular brush is a problem child. It used to be my favorite, and but I had to change the shaft on it because the cat put a tooth through it, and now it doesn't distribute the water the same way. It has a tendency to dry out. So let's see if I can't do this like this, then I can always come back in and do it with a gel pen or with a fine liner, because I'm going to do the skin in marker. I've already decided that I'm going to do all of their little skins in Cali Art marker in the skin, one of the skin tones. I could make them green or blue or, you know, the little fairy faces, but I think I'm just going to make them recognizably human or elf-like. So I'm just putting it on the very, very tip in a very concentrated color. You know, I gave the cat a flea bath. I coated her with the flea stuff, and she still scratches. So must just be that time of year. It has rained here for the last, rained all day yesterday. And it was kind of, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. It didn't rain in the morning. It clouded, it got really cold during the day. Clouded up and rained over, well, yesterday afternoon and last night. And this morning it is still looking cloudy and rainy and icky and spitting raindrops at us. So now I'll do that. And then I will also take just a bit of the mid vermilion. So I'm sticking with the same colors that I've used elsewhere. And that is to maintain the color balance, but also because I don't want to introduce so many colors that it goes garish on me. Okay, so then I just added a little bit of mid vermilion. So now her crown looks like, you know, it's the crown she might wear every day, you know, as a part of her. So also, I had done the hair in the Graphitint, but if I want to, I can enhance it a little bit with some of the mid vermilion just here and there to sort of add some bright spots. I want to be sort of careful doing this because while the Inktense is permanent, the Graphitint is not. And so I just want to make sure you could even choose to leave that mid vermilion dry and not reactivate it or not activate it with water, which is probably a better thing to do. But once that dries, I think it'll blend in quite nicely. It just added a little bit of pop to her hair. I love the way the wings turned out. I have to say, I really do. Okay. So, now with the same spirit of color balancing, I want to do the little fairy dresses in the various, on this side, I want to do the pinks and the purples. So I've got a deep rose, I've got the fuchsia, let's see, here's the Carmine Pink, here is the cherry, let's see, I'm looking for the deep violet. Is that yeah, there's the deep violet. Okay, so I want to make these little dresses, I want to bring the purple down to this side. So I've got the purple here in this flower, purple here. If I do one of these little fairies in purple, that establishes purple on this side. Then we had the yellow flowers here, the yellow crown in the mid place, and a yellow daisy flower here. So we're balancing our color use out, not necessarily in objects of the same size, but in like 3 objects gold or yellows, 3 objects. This counts as 1 object, this flower. But the purple and the pink over here, I'll bring in the purple and the pink over here, kind of thing. So, and I can, you know, I'm not limited to one color. I've used all of these colors here on this. So this one I was going to do the deep violet. So I'm just going to do it the same way that I did the flower originally. And that is make this, the cat has once again planted herself at the very top of my page. She's like, there's her little ear right there. So I'm having to work with her being right there, since I've tossed her off twice now and she has not taken the hint. Alright, so there's that, and then I can use the mauve, which I can never figure. It's what throws me is that the colors literally sorry, literally the colors that are on the shafts bear such little resemblance to the actual color that they are. Where is my purple? Where's my mauve? There it is, right there. It's hard to be able to just look at it and know you have the right pencil in your hand. Okay, and then I'm also going to add just a tiny hint of iris blue in here, just because See, I did it again. I waited too long. I threatened that harsh line. Looks like I got it in time. Generally, if you've got enough pigment on the page, you can avoid that harsh line because it won't all have activated. And these are just little, so they're not, there we go, they don't have to be perfect. So see how immediately that pulls that purple in and sort of balances this side. Okay, and then this one down here can be, say, the Carmine Pink. Sort of a very delicate kind of pink. There's not very much of the flowers showing on this one. Because it's mostly just wings. So that should be enough pigment on there to be able to work out a very delicate pink color all the way down to the bottom, even though I didn't use, even though it's darker up there at the top. Sort of like that. Okay. And then this one here can be, let's see here. That one could be the deep rose. rose. Oh, we could bring in the thistle. Ah, we could just use the deep, yeah, let's just use the deep rose and we'll let the weight of the color dictate it, very much like this pink one, only in the deep rose color. And there's little leafy parts up here that I haven't colored. There, I did it again. I waited too long. I didn't put enough pigment on the page, and then I waited too long. It's okay. We can fix that later. We can fix it later. So slightly different kind of, yeah, see, this needs to be darker. All right, so what was that, the deep rose? So now I'll take a little bit off of here. And just sort of stroke that in. All right, there we go. That's a little better. So all of those they're three different colors, but they're establishing a balance. Then I can do this one again in yellow, and that will sort of pull, even though that's a fourth one in that same color, it sort of pulls it back around, but I don't have to do it exactly the same as I did this one. I could actually use a different yellow altogether. So maybe I'll use the cadmium yellow, which I also used somewhere in here. I don't remember where, but if it's in my jar, it means I used it. So we'll do this one in the cadmium yellow. Excuse me. And maybe we'll make this one a little bit two-toned by pulling in pink. Yeah, well, maybe we'll pull in the cadmium or the Carmine Pink. Down here at the very, very tips. Just very, very lightly. Adding just a tiny, tiny tad of that color. So we'll pull this all the way down and then just brush that in just a tiny bit. It's that brush that is driving me crazy with the water flow being so bad in it. Now I have to find a new favorite water brush. This one is great, but it puts out a lot of water. So I have to be pretty careful with it. Okay, and there we go. So we have 4 different kinds of fairies and 4 different dresses. Because you know, flowers always are slightly different in color. Okay, so now let's see where we are at. Hopefully that is still back in focus. Alright, so here's where we are right this very second. I do need to, I've got to obviously finish up some leaves here, and, but before I do that, I want to get out the, because now I want to see what the Cali Arts are going to do. So let me choose some colors and I'll be right back. Okay, I have chosen the R100, which is the Barely Beige. It is the one down here. It was a choice between the Skin White, which I could do, or the Barely Beige. I think I might do the Skin White on the little guys and the Barely Beige on her, and see how that goes, see if there is, in fact, any difference. So let's zoom down, and let's focus. Oops, I think I went too far. There we go. And so this is the R100, and it'll look dark going on, but it does look lighter once it dries. And actually, I don't know that I can, even at this tiny size, I don't think I can put up with that tiny tip. And voila, just like that. See, I love, well, I'll tell you what, if there is one thing that the Cali Arts did well, it is their skin tones. Because you all know that I am just notorious for not liking to color people. And so it has to be, if I am going to color human things, or human-like things, I want it to be as easy as possible. And the Cali Arts really make it easy. So there's that. I could add some tinge of color later with Inktense or something else, excuse me. Now let's see about our little guys. Now this is the R000, which is the Skin White. So that was the Barely Beige. This is the Skin White. Let's start with this little guy over here, since he's got the biggest face that's showing. Well, it's a good thing it wasn't a full glass of water, isn't it? This is why I put my water. I have a water bottle that I refill because the cat just knocked it over. Had it been a glass of water, we would not be coloring right now because we would be drowning in the water. She dumped it right over on my page. Ask me how I learned that. That I have to keep my water in bottles when I'm around my cat. Okay, so that, all right, I like that. It is a little lighter. I'm not sure I like it. But let's just keep going with it and see. Little hands. Okay. Yeah, there's just not that big of a difference. You know? Adding a second coat. See, and this is, even on this paper, these don't bleed through very much. But I do need to add, while I'm doing this, a protective sheet underneath. I'm just going to use this piece of cardstock since I have about 1,000 plastic, or I have at least 5 or 6 plastic sheets, but I can't find any of them. Whoops. Okay. This one is looking down, so it doesn't have any open eyes that I need to avoid. It's amazing how just the addition of a skin tone can suddenly bring these little guys to life, you know? They go from being abstract beings to being little beings, you know? Little relatable beings. To decide what I'm going to do for all of their wings. They all have to have little wings, you know. Okay. Need to avoid that eye. Nothing worse than a skin tone eye. All right. So what all are you guys coloring? Thank you to the people who have been purchasing books and PDFs in my Etsy shop this week and last week. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. You know, I do, one of the other, of course, sources of my anxiety is, you know, wondering, like everybody, you know, what is going to happen to my income stream given that people are, you know, are understandably worried about whether or not they'll be able to pay their bills with the, this whole staying home from work and things like that. I hope that those of you that are able to work from home. It has been one of the pleasures of being an artist is that I can quite literally work from anywhere. Whether or not I'm visiting or staying at home, I'm able to literally work from anywhere, and it's more convenient here at home, obviously, where I have all my own stuff. And I know that in a lot of companies that are office based, that they're able to send their employees home with laptops and especially those folks who work on computers as a general rule or use computers to do their work. And so those folks will probably be able to count on their paychecks and, continuing. But for those folks that can't, I feel you. It is absolutely a worry. All right. Okay, so now we've got skin on our little guys. Back to focusing on the big picture. Hello. Okay, and good Lord. I look like I've been through the mill, but I haven't. I just bumped my wrist in it. And I have a tendency to bruise pretty easily. Okay, so we're looking good. We're almost there. We're almost there. We've got a few more details here. Be right back. Okay, well, I have just watched the playback on all of this, and I am going to go ahead and leave it as is. And I'm going to have to come back and do a part 3 because we are already at the 2-hour plus mark. I don't want to make the video longer than that, but we still have at least another hour probably to complete this. And I think a 3-hour video is too long. So I will go ahead and leave it here at this stage. I will probably do the only thing I want to do before I do a background is just finish up these little leaves. And so I will finish up the leaves. I'll do them exactly the same way that I did these. And the demo on that is in the Sunday live stream, and that was the Sunday, March 29th live stream. So if you are anxious to see how I did those leaves, you can look there to see how I did it. Otherwise, I'll come back and we'll do a background on this. So for now, thank you all very much for your patience. If you made it this far in this video, if you didn't push off the minute that you heard me talking about things that have happened and the news, I just watched the news and it isn't any better today. So as a matter of fact, it's worse. And so all we can really do is just the best we can do. And so until we meet again to do a background on this, please color something pretty. And don't forget, not only me, but all of your artists. And we will do the very best that we can for all of you as well. So, bye everybody. From Little Coriander over here on the edge. Oh, here she comes. You want to come over? Come over and say hi? or bye. We're going. Until we meet again, everybody. Bye from Coriander and I.